back to STNews. Our first guest tonight is Mountain FM News Director Glen Hicks. Please, everybody, give him a hand. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. It's nice to be here on your show, not Letterman's or Leno's, but your show, and that's really special.
We've got pull.
Clearly, I mean, you've got some serious heavyweights in the audience, and your next guest, it's really intimidating to be on the same stage as that guy, so...
Think of it as you're being the warm-up guy.
Yeah, that's okay. I can handle that.
You can handle it?
Yeah, I can handle it.
So, a little bit of background. I don't think a lot of people know that you're from South Africa, and when you were there, you were a news anchor for quite some time. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I spent about 20 years in South Africa. I started off as a young reporter journalist for the national broadcaster, and ended up becoming the national television news anchor for the SABC in Johannesburg.
Wow. So is that kind of like the CBC for us?
Yeah, it's the national news on the main channel, 5 or 6 million viewers every night.
Wow.
I co-hosted the national news, the 8 o'clock national news with my wife, who was then the co-anchor, and I...
So that's how you picked her up?
Kind of. We had some fun under the set one night, and it just went a little further, and I missed my cue, and she missed her cue, and we cocked up the national news, but we got married.
I guess you weren't talking about the Big Bang Theory.
No, well, fortunately not at that stage, not live, anyway.
Okay. So you were there for like the state of emergency, pretty much, eh?
Yeah, I had I guess the pleasure, the privilege, and often the anxiety to report on South Africa's darkest days and South Africa's brightest rainbow days. I was there as a journalist in the 1980s where I would prepare a lead story for national news, and I was about to put the story on the air, and the executive information officer to the state president would ring me up personally and ask me what my lead story was, and if he didn't like it, he would tell me to pull it.
Wow.
So I was there.
There was a lot of censorship.
Sure. In the 80s, I was there at the height of the state of emergency censorship. And then, of course, Nelson Mandela was released from Pollsmoor prison.
What was that like? Were you there for that?
I wasn't. I was in Johannesburg. And he was released from a prison in mainland Cape Town, having spent a long time on Robben Island. He was then transferred to Pollsmoor. So I was there for the great day of Mandela's release. Amazingly, we were able to report this. It was a paradoxical time being a journalist in South Africa in the 80s. Doing one thing, then having your stories retracted by the racist regime, then watching Nelson Mandela being released, being able to report on that, watching Nelson Mandela go to the Cape Town town square and speak to the people and all the people, and then being allowed to stand as a white person for a referendum to allow Mandela to run for president. It was a remarkable situation, standing with 1 million white people in the sun and no black people were allowed to be in the queue, because we were voting to allow black people to vote with us. It was an extraordinary circumstance, yeah. And I got to report on all of that, and it was a remarkable thing. Yeah, that's how we felt when Mandela finally became president, and we had the remarkable Rainbow Nation, and a period of a decade after that when things were so much more positive than what they'd been in the 80s.
Absolutely. So, and you were actually there for, I heard a rumor that you were there for his birthday.
Yeah, that was something else. I mean,
you were there for, so yeah, I went to his party.
Yeah, when he turned 80, he invited myself and my wife Jane and a number of guests. I mean, it certainly wasn't sort of streamers and blow whistles in the backyard, but
with the fireworks.
Yeah, well, there were fireworks. But he had a big dinner, a party. Michael Jackson, the late Michael Jackson, was there, and Danny Glover was there, and Nelson Mandela invited us to his 80th party, and it was a heck of a rock and roll night. It was a really good time to spend with the old man, and he's now into his 90s and still going pretty strong. So wow, it was special.
So and then after South Africa, he went to Britain.
Yeah, in 2001 I moved with my family from South Africa and worked for the BBC as a producer and presenter for BBC World Service Radio and for live television News 24 in the mainland Britain. So.
And you also did a lot of coverage for sports.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I did for the BBC was sports, those really well-known sports like rugby. This is a big rugby town, right?
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah. And football, of course, and
What about hockey?
Cricket.
Cricket.
Yeah, cricket, the very famous sport. Cricket. It takes about 5 days for everybody to get warmed up.
What about hockey? Is there much coverage across the pond?
Oh yeah, they play lots of hockey with the little curly stick and the guys in their whites on the green grass and
No, ice hockey.
Oh, ice hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, not an awful lot of ice hockey. In fact, I needed to come to, and I'd never really, although I was born in Canada, I hadn't spent an awful lot of time here. I left when I was a little kid, and I came back to Canada for the very first and only time since then, when I came to Nelson 6 years ago. It's not until you start watching hockey as a seasoned spectator, like Canadians are, that you understand that not every single hockey player in the world has a 2-inch beard. Because when you think about it, in Europe, and certainly with the BBC and in South Africa, the only coverage the rest of the world gives ice hockey, I'm talking about outside of North America and some of the Scandinavian countries, the only coverage you get of ice hockey on global television is 30 seconds of the Stanley Cup final.
Oh, when everybody has the player...
And every single player on the ice, if you can relate to this, every single player on the ice, you're watching these video highlights, has a beard. They all look identical. You can't think about it. You have no idea who's who.
So basically, everybody that doesn't watch ice hockey thinks Canadians who worship ice hockey are giant Neanderthal Vikings.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, it's all the same guy. Like every team, all the guys look exactly because of the beard, right?
Yeah.
So the international audience has no idea that this is a tradition that when the playoffs happen, the guys stop shaving. The rest of the world has no idea about that. So what you need to do to grow the world game is tell them to shave and maybe tell them to take the helmets off.
That's tradition. And we're right out of time here. Glenn, thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed.
And we'll be right back with John Dooley.